Ho, 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 he said, talking aloud to himself. Ha, ha. That walk through the jungle has made me hungrier than ever. One child isn't going to be nearly enough for me today. It won't be full. I won't be full up until I've eaten at least 3 juicy little children. He started to creep forward toward the town. The enormous crocodile crept over to a place where there was a lot of coconut trees. He knew that children from the town often came here looking for coconuts. The trees were too small for them to climb, but there were always some coconuts on the ground that had fallen down. The enormous crocodile quickly collected all the coconuts that were lying on the ground. He also gathered together several fallen branches. Now for the clever trick number 1, he whispered to himself. It won't be long before I am eating the first part of my lunch. He took all the coconut branches and held them between his teeth. He grasped the coconuts in his front paws. Then he stood straight up in the air, balancing himself on his tail. He had arranged the branches and the coconuts so clearly that he now looked exactly like a small coconut tree standing among all the big coconut trees. Soon, 2 children came along. They were brother and sister. The boy was called Toto, his sister called Mary. They walked around looking for fallen coconuts, but they couldn't find any because the enormous crocodile had gathered them all up. "Oh, look," cried Toto. "That tree over there is much smaller than the others, and it's full of coconuts. I think I could climb that one quite easily if you help me up the first part." Toto and Mary ran toward what they thought was the small coconut tree. The enormous crocodile peered through the branches, watching him as they came closer and closer. He licked his lips. He began to dribble with excitement. Suddenly there was a tremendous whooshing noise. It was Humpy Rumpy the hippopotamus. He came crashing and snorting out of the jungle. His head was down low and he was galloping at a terrific speed. "Look out, Toto," shouted Humpy Rumpy. "Look out, Mary. That's not a coconut tree. It's the enormous crocodile, and he wants to eat you up." Humpy Rumpy charged straight at the enormous crocodile. He caught him with his giant head and sent him tumbling and skidding over the ground. "Owie!" cried the crocodile. "Help! Stop! Where am I?" Toto and Mary ran back to the town as fast as they could. But crocodiles are tough. It is difficult for even a hippopotamus to hurt them. The enormous crocodile picked himself up and crept toward the place where the children's playground was. "Now for clever trick number 2, he said to himself. "This one is certain to work." There were no children in the playground at that moment. They were all in school. The enormous crocodile found a big log and placed it in the middle of the playground. Then he lay across the log and tucked in his feet so that he looked almost exactly like a seesaw. When school was over, the children all came running onto the playground. "Oh, look!" they cried. "We've got a new seesaw!" They all crowded around, shouting with excitement. "I'll go first. I'll get on the other end. I want to go first. So do I. So do I." Then a girl who was older than the others said, "It's rather a funny, knobby sort of seesaw, isn't it? Do you think it'll be safe to sit on?" "Of course it will," the others said. "It looks strong as anything." The enormous crocodile opened one eye, just as a tiny bit, and watched the children who were crowding around him. "Soon," he thought, "one of them is going to sit on my head. Then I will give a jerk and a snap, and after that, it will be yum, yum, yum." At that moment, there was a flash of brown, and something jumped into the playground and hopped on to the top of the swings. It was Mugglewump the monkey. "Run!" Mugglewump shouted to the children. "All of you, run, run, run! That's not a seesaw. It's the enormous crocodile, and he wants to eat you up." When no one was looking, he crept up onto the merry-go-round and put himself between a wooden lion and a fearsome dragon. He set up a bit on his back legs and he kept very still. He looked exactly like a wooden crocodile on the merry-go-round. Soon, all sorts of children came flocking into the fair. Several of them ran toward the merry-go-round. They were very excited. "I'm going to ride on a dragon," cried one. "I'm going on a lovely white horse," cried another. "I'm going on a lion," cried a third one. And one little girl, whose name was Jill, said, "I'm going to ride on that funny old wooden crocodile." The enormous crocodile kept very still, but he could see the little girl coming toward him. "Yummy, yum, yum," he thought. "I'll gulp her up easily in one gallop." Suddenly there was a swish and a swoosh, and something came swishing and swooshing out of the sky. It was Roly-Poly Bird. He flew around and around the merry-go-round, singing, "Look out, Jill, look out, look out! Don't ride on that crocodile." "That's not a wooden crocodile," sang the Roly-Poly Bird. "It's a real one. It's the enormous crocodile from the river, and he wants to eat you up." Jill turned and ran. So did all the other children. Even the man who was working the merry-go-round jumped off it and ran away as fast as he could. The enormous crocodile cursed the Roly-Poly Bird and waddled back into the bushes to hide. "I'm so hungry now," he thought to himself. "I could eat 6 children before I'm full up." Just outside the town, there was a pretty little field with trees and bushes all around it. This was called the picnic place. There were several wooden tables and long benches, and people were allowed to go there and have a picnic at any time. The enormous crocodile crept over to the picnic place. There was no one in sight. "Now for clever trick number 4, he whispered to himself. He picked a lovely bunch of flowers and arranged it on one of the tables. From the same table, he took away one of the benches and hid it in the bushes. Then he put himself in the place where the bench had been. By tucking his head under his chest and by twisting his tail out of sight, he made himself look very much like a long wooden bench with 4 legs. Soon, 2 boys and girls came along carrying baskets of food. They were all from one family, and their mother had said they could go out and have a picnic together. "Which table shall we sit at?" said one. "Let's take the table with the lovely flowers on it," said another. The enormous crocodile kept as quiet as a mouse. "I shall eat them all," he said to himself. "They will come and sit on my back, and I will swizzle my head around, and after that, it'll be squish, crunch, gulp." Suddenly, a big, deep voice from the jungle shouted, "Stand back, children! Stand back! Stand back!" The children stopped and stared at the place where the voice was coming from. Then, with a crashing of the branches, Chunky the elephant came out of the jungle. "That's not a bench you were going to sit on," he bellowed. "It's the enormous crocodile, and he wants to eat you up." Chunky trotted over to the spot where the enormous crocodile was standing, and quick as a flash, he wrapped his trunk around the crocodile's tail and hoisted him into the air. "Hey, let me go!" The enormous crocodile, who was now dangling upside down. "Let me go! Let me go!" "No," Chunky said, "I will not let you go. We've all had quite enough of your clever tricks." Chunky began to swing the crocodile round and round in the air. At first he swung him slowly. Then he swung him faster and faster and faster and faster still. Soon, the enormous crocodile was just a blurry circle going round and round Trunky's head. Suddenly, Trunky let go of the crocodile's tail, and the crocodile went shooting high up into the sky like a huge green rocket. Up and up he went, higher and higher, faster and faster. He was going so fast and so high that soon the earth was just a tiny dot miles below. He whizzed on and on. He whizzed far into space. He whizzed past the moon. He whizzed past stars and planets until, at last, with the most tremendous bang, the enormous crocodile crashed head first into the hot, hot sun, and he was sizzled up like a sausage.